All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about a topic, and it covers not just military surplus guns, but all firearms in general, is the rising prices. And the fact that, especially with military surplus, because the uniqueness of their older weapons that are no longer manufactured, and there's a finite supply of them, but their prices and the asking prices for these firearms has increased dramatically, to where a lot of people are complaining that they cannot get into this hobby. Okay. Well, part of it, and we can go through this whole long list of reasons why. Okay. But one of the main reasons is whenever we have these panic buys for whatever political reason. This last one that hit us a year ago with pandemic, elections, and everything was probably the worst that it's ever been in the whole history of the U.S. All guns were bought up. The amount of guns being manufactured and sold keep setting a record every year for like the past 10, 15 years, okay? There is obviously a demand for all types of firearms, not just mil surplus, okay? The thing about military surplus is generally, something like this CZ-70. They bring in a bunch of these. They're a police gun. They're not a military gun. But these guns are about 50, they were designed 50 years ago. They're common. They weren't expensive. They're an interesting design, but being in 32 caliber, not that popular, but still, for like around $200, not a bad little gun. Okay, you can use it for personal protection, concealed carry. It's not that huge, but nice weapon. These have gone up. Now, if you can find them, how many are still out there? If they're ever going to import these into the country again, I have no idea. They may not. It's sporadic. Like when they find some somewhere that they're willing overseas to sell a lot of them, they will pop up every now and again, okay? That's the thing about these guns. You don't know for sure. But now these things are like anywhere from $300 to $400. I've seen these go for. All of them, all types of them, even Polish P64s and P83s. The P83s go for a ridiculous amount. Things like this K31 just constantly go up. You can't touch any of the Swiss rifles, no matter what model, I think, for less than $600. It used to be a $300 gun. That ain't the way it is, and I doubt very much, because of the popularity of the gun, I doubt very much you'll ever see prices drop on them again. Now, just regular commercial firearms, like I do a lot of things on Taurus or whatever, or pump shotguns, during this last thing, they've all shot up in price, okay? And you can get, back before the panic, really for like a Mossberg pump shotgun with a nice wood stock, an older one, it was hard to get $150, $125 for it, okay, depending on how used or beat up it was. Then when the panic started, you could sell one for $350 with a box of shells, That goes to show you, it's very unstable. Now it's kind of backing off. But another thing is, usually during these crises, what I do is, because like this one's lasted over a year, is I would get into like replica black powder firearms. This is another thing. It's an interesting field. I mean, it's historic. These are military guns, but they're repros. They're copies of them, modern day copies. And if you shop around for these, you could get them on sale. They're not expensive. Things like this, the last time before it got crazy, you find them for $200, $225, okay? Anywhere up depending on the model, to about $400, okay? So you're looking at about $300 for a brand new copy. Now, the used market on these firearms is terrible. Okay, you're not going to get, if it's out of the box or been used or used at all or fired, the value on these historically were nil. Okay, if you were picking one of these up used, you want to go 100, 100 and a quarter, depending on the condition. If it was really beat up or a brass frame, I wouldn't even bother buying them. Okay, I think I sold a brass frame one that was used and kind of worn. I think $80 or something was what I ended up selling it for. Basically, what a friend of mine had, and that's what he had in it, and that's what I sold it for. I couldn't get the guy to pay any more. And out of a gun show with a few thousand people, there was only one individual looking at these guns. Okay, so unless you're selling these to a reenactor or somebody, you know, that has a need to join a unit and is involved in historical reenactment, which there are no Civil War battlefields close to me. If I went to shows up in Virginia where there's a lot of the battlefields and a lot of these people that are active in this, then yes, there's a market and these things will sell, and you can get some money out of them, you know, depending on, again, condition and everything. So what I wanted to also cover is I purchased up here, this is a repro, and it's a Sharps percussion model, 1859, I believe, and it is a sporting rifle. It isn't a military version. Okay, there's two military versions: the rifle and the cavalry carbine, which are extremely popular, and basically those were the guns the military bought during the Civil War, so they're highly desirable and used by the reenactors. You know, more or less required a model gun to have in whatever unit that they are or are acting out in their battlefield reenactments. So they're popular. There's two companies, I think Pedersoli and Keepawa, whatever, however you pronounce it, that make them, and they're different grades. And I think there's three models. The Confederate one has a simple fixed rear sight, and that's usually priced a little lower, but the price of these guns new, the rifle's $1,800, and I think $1,600 ballpark for a carbine. Okay, and then the Confederate one is down there, I think because of the sight or something, it's down there to $1,400. So that's pretty good price tag for a brand new out of the box. So I said, you know, I'd like to get one. I need to experiment with making Sharps paper cartridges and a rifle design and the whole system. I want to fool with it, get some experience with it. And you can't touch the ones, even from the companies, okay, like IAB, they're considered the most troublesome and lowest quality of all of the weapons ever made over time. And even then, okay, the price, you can't find them at a halfway decent price, or what you would think is a decent price. And auctions and everything, I mean, see, this is where you guys, if you're buying through auctions, okay, you got to be able to kind of figure out what's going on with the auctions, and sometimes you really can't, because I've been to live auctions and sat there bidding on something, and then have the person, which may or may not be tied into the auction company, just start running it up to crazy things. And there's sometimes I have known the individuals bidding, they're not. They're running up the auction. They're actually paying that amount. Okay, so it's a tough call. The way it looks, prices are going up, you know, inflation, whatever, and they're not going to come down. I doubt it very much, ever. Even, you know, like I said, even for these replica guns, it's insane. And yeah, I'll tell you a video on. I'll do one on the auctions, or because that's more of a black powder thing. But I just wanted to make a video, you know, because that's the biggest complaint, is that what these used guns is basically what it is. I'm not talking about factory new weapons. I'm talking about used weapons that, like I said, are 50 years old. And the prices people are paying for these things, you know, and it depends too how you look at it, factor in inflation in that. But for me, some of these things are going way kind of too high for what they are, at least in my opinion. But obviously in somebody else's opinion, they don't think so, okay? So that's my thoughts on the rising prices. And I'll do a video on auctions, even though it's a black powder firearm, but I think a little advice on auctions is something you guys should pay attention to, all right?